So make sure that you go over the sections on blended families and why role ambiguity is a problem and the families that are more likely to have multi-generational homes and close family ties. So make sure you review that on the slides previously. So right now we're going to talk about something called institutionalism and what that means. So what we know is that as folks get older, they're more likely to go into a nursing home or a long-term care facility. As you can see, there are different combinations and different ways that that can work. But what we know is that when someone is experiencing something called institutionalism, this is also known as learned helplessness. And this can actually make their lives a lot more difficult and make them feel hopeless. So let's talk about what that is and how they came across this information. So this is an older study. It was done in 1979, and it basically broke up folks who were living in a nursing home or a long-term care facility into two different groups. And in one of those groups, they were allowed to kind of choose the different activities that they would do each day and decide what they were going to engage in each day. And in another group, they were not allowed to do any of that. So they were basically told when they would do everything during their day. So they were given a strict schedule that they had no control over and that they had to follow. And other folks were given a lot of choices about what they could do and how they could spend their time. And what they found is that those folks who were given that really strict schedule that they had no leeway in being able to change or alter, those people actually died sooner. And it was a notable amount, a significant amount of people that the experiment was stopped. And this is when we learned that institutionalism existed in this type of long-term care facility setting. This is meaning that they had no options and no choices about how they wanted to spend their time and how they wanted to, live. And one of the first studies on this had to do with dogs. So what they did is they had dogs in two different cages. In both cages, they would get electric shocks. In one cage, if they kind of pulled the lever or if they moved the door, they were able to escape. In another condition, it didn't matter what they did. It didn't matter how hard they tried. They continuously got electric shocks. Okay, so they're in two cages. Now, no one would do this today. This is obviously unethical. And then they were put in other cages that did not have electric shocks. So both groups of dogs. They had the dog that got the shocks, had no way to get out. And then they had the dog that got the shocks but occasionally got out. When they were put in new cages, who do you think tried to get out? And if you said the dog who got the shocks but occasionally got out, you are correct. The dog that did not get out one time, even when put in a new situation, they didn't even try to get out. And that really is learned helplessness. This idea that because you've tried and failed multiple times in one particular setting or situation, or that you have no power or control over your environment, no matter what you do, this creates this learned helplessness, which then makes it much more difficult, even when you do have power, to wield that power effectively to change the situation.